Hello, I'm Dr. Jessica Han. In this section, I'm going to introduce you the biodiversity, starting from the origin of life, the formation of eukaryotic cells from prokaryotic cells, and the formation of multicellular life. The origin of life on Earth started at 3.9 billion years ago because at that time the Earth had solidified enough to support life. Earlier than that, back at 4.6 billion years ago, the Earth was hot and molten, and it was not very hospitable to life. Where do cells come from? If cells arise from pre-existing cells, how could the first living cells arise? There are many hypotheses. One of the hypotheses is that the unique conditions of primordial Earth fostered biogenesis, the formation of new living organisms. There are four stages for forming a new living organisms, which are life. First, it required the synthesis of organic monomers from the element. Secondly, it required the synthesis of organic polymers. Thirdly, the origin of self-replicating molecules are needed, such as RNA molecule, which can be copied using itself as a template. At the end, the cell membranes are formed, and the cell membranes wrap around the molecules to form the first cell. All these four stages are described step by step. First, Urey and Miller demonstrated that organic monomers can form under conditions that simulate early Earth. Secondly, early Earth's extreme conditions may have bonded monomers into organic polymers. Scientists use the laboratory to simulate the condition of the Earth to demonstrate that the organic monomers can be formed using the molecules in the atmosphere. The water can be evaporated from simulated sea condition. Then the water will interact with the molecules in the air through the condenser, which are the dehydration process or other chemical reactions. The output will be the organic molecules, such as nucleotides, amino acids. All these molecules can be synthesized through this simulated equipment. The scientists also demonstrated that early Earth's extreme conditions may have bonded monomers into organic polymers. So we all know the polymers can be formed by monomers through dehydration reactions. Thirdly, some self-replicating molecules can be formed using the organic polymer structure. For example, RNA. RNA can self-replicate. They may have been the first genetic material even earlier than DNA molecule. The cell membranes may have formed as lipids that spontaneously come together. We all know cell membranes are made by phospholipid bilayer. So phospholipids can spontaneously bind together to form the membrane structure. The first living organisms on Earth back at the 1.4 billion years ago, it was prokaryotic cells. Those prokaryotic cells were the only cell type at that time. Slowly, the prokaryotic cells are evolved into eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells appeared around 2 billion years ago. We all know the differences between prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell is that eukaryotic cells have a cell membrane wrapped around its nucleus. The endomembrane system is unique to eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells do not only have cell membrane wrapped around the nucleus, the DNA structure, but also has cell membrane derived into Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosome, and the mitochondria. So all the organelles within the eukaryotic cells are all wrapped around by a membrane. The endomembrane system is unique to eukaryotic cells. The endomembrane system consists of internal membranes and membrane-enclosed organelles. Internal membranes likely evolved through an inward folding of the plasma membrane. So what does that mean? It means that the membrane structure are derived from the cell membrane, and the cell membrane become folded, then start to wrap around the molecules to form organelles. This slide kind of demonstrated the process of endomembrane system formation. It started from the ancestry prokaryotic cell. In the prokaryotic cell, we have a cell membrane, cytoplasma, and the DNA. Over the time the cells are evolved, the membrane started to fold to form all this folding structure. The folded structure will form a new organelle such as endoplasmic reticulum. Then the further folding will form the membrane, which is called the nuclear envelope, wrap around the DNA. Endosymbiosis is when one species lives inside another host. Two eukaryotic organelles, mitochondria and the chloroplast. These two organelles appear to have evolved from small free-living prokaryotes that were engulfed by another prokaryotic cell. Symbiosis was beneficial to all organisms. The evidence to demonstrate that mitochondria and the chloroplast are independently derived from the prokaryotic cell is that the mitochondria and the chloroplast all have their own DNA, RNA, and proteins. The process of one prokaryotic cell being engulfed by another one to form into mitochondria or chloroplast is demonstrated in this slide. The cells start with nucleus and the endomembrane system. Later, the cells can endocytose another oxygen metabolizing bacteria. Then the membrane will wrap around that bacteria, which is the formation of mitochondria. On the other hand, this prokaryotic cell engulf another prokaryote which can do the photosynthesis. That photosynthetic prokaryote is coming into the cell membrane wrap around it, so it forms into chloroplast. The evidence to demonstrate that mitochondria and chloroplast are derived from other prokaryotic cells is that each of these organelles has their own DNA and RNA, which is different from the DNA within the nucleus. So what does that mean? That means when the cell make their copies, the nucleus guided the protein synthesis, but mitochondria and the chloroplast DNA will guide to their own synthesis and the replication. The origin of multicellular life came from a unicellular protist. So biologists hypothesized a series of steps that may have occurred in the evolution of multicellularity. Some hypotheses are talking about unspecialized cells are being duplicated, then form into a cluster of the cells. Later, they are being specialized. Some cells function for movement, some cells function for ingestion, or some cells later form into gamete. Another hypothesis we're talking about that the cells are specialized, already have their own function, they are duplicated and become divided into a multicellular unit, then they start to form a particular tissues or organs. In summary, we talk about the origin of Earth started at 4.6 billion years ago, but the Earth started to be solidified to support the life. It's around 3.9 billion years ago. The prokaryotic cells started very earlier. It's the first type of cells found on Earth. It was found around 3.5 billion years ago. The eukaryotic cells originated at 2.1 billion years ago. The eukaryotic cells are further divided into different kingdoms. and the different kingdoms evolved at different time. All these human, animal, and plants are multicellular lives. In summary, this section focuses on origin of life, formation of prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, as well as the multicellular life.